All right. Love is enough. His love is you and me. And so we spread that love. We extend that love. Well, good day to everyone and welcome to this session of Truly Foundations and our commentary on all of the workbook lessons out of A Course in Miracles. My name is Oliver Blue, and I'm your temporary guide, your temporary host. I'll be your temporary coach. But most importantly, I am your permanent brother, your permanent self. We are one. I and you and me, we are one in love. And today we're going to continue our review period as we move to workbook lesson 175. If you are following along with me, and hopefully you are. Hopefully you have a copy of A Course in Miracles, but it's not required. But if you have a copy, that means that you can engage in this journey with us on a deeper level, and it will only benefit you the more. So this is our fifth day of this fourth review period, and just want to remind everyone that this time we are ready in this review. I'm just going back and reading a little bit out of the introduction. It says, this time we are ready to give more effort, more time to what we have undertaken. What have we undertaken? We have made a committed decision, if you've been following along with me, to undo everything that we have done in the way of thinking that is contrary to our true reality. It's called transformation, or it's called renewal. And we have made a committed decision to go through the process of renewing our mind and not being conformed to the mind of this world, but being conformed to the mind of God, or being transformed to the mind of God, or our original state, or the mind of Christ, which would do us well if we do that. We'll be more happier, more healthier, more glorious, more pleasant. We will be more adventurous, more creative. We would just have an experience in that abundant life if we would take on the mind of Christ. He said, let this mind be in you that was also in me. This is what our elder brother Jesus said. Allow the mind that I operated in to operate in you. You can. It's the one mind that we share. He said, because in that one mind, when you get my mind, you will come to an understanding that you have equality with the Creator. You have equality with God. You have equality with me. There is no levels, no orders. It is just oneness. You would lose all sense of fear. You would lose all sense of guilt and sin consciousness. You would lose all sense of separation if you will embrace the Christ mind, that you are equal with God. I know that's a big, huge pill to swallow based on our religious conditioning, based on the world conditioning. But I am here to say, the Course is here to say, if you will, Christ is here to say, the Holy Spirit is here to say, all of heaven is here to say, if you would take on the mind of Christ, let this mind be in you, like it is stated in Philippians 1:5. Let this mind, that means that there is a mind, which is called the mind of Christ, or the mind of God. Allow it to be in you. Allow this mind to be in you. Allow this mind to be the mind that you operate in. Being in the form of God, even as you may appear to be here in a body. He says that we're appearing in the form of God, in the person of God. He said, think, because with this mind, you think that you are not robbing God by saying you have equality with God, and that you got equality with Jesus, and you got equality with all the previous gurus. You got equality with all humanity. That you occupy a space of equality. There is no inferiority in you. This will help alleviate the inferiority complex that most of us walk in, where we feel inferior to God, we feel inferior to each other, and it only brings on a timidity that is not a part of our loving nature. Within love, there is only equality. There is no love if there's no equality. Let's try to have a relationship where there's no equality. There's no love. But where there is love, there is equality, meaning everyone share equally in the one self, in the one being, in the one source, in the one life. So this time we are ready to give more effort and more time to what we are undertaking here. This is what we're undertaking. There has to be, if there is to be a peace that passes this world, or that transcends time and space, this peace resides in the truth. And the truth is, we are one with God. God is one with us. We're not two separate entities or beings. We're only one being. We share the same being. This is the message that Jesus came to share with the world. And the world didn't like that message. So they thought they'd get rid of him, and they would get rid of the message. But they didn't understand that Jesus was not a body. Jesus was temporarily appearing in a body. But that Jesus had more influence outside of his body than when he was in his body. So when they killed him, it only caused that message and that reality to be extended and to spread all over the world. To the point, here we are 2,000 some years later, and he's still having this message of love, this message of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man is still is still front and center. It's still having an impact. It still has the power to transform. And so it's our time. It is our turn. And God said, no, don't look at me. Don't look at all the others that have gone before you and have realized their reality. Don't look at them as some idol to worship. I'm not an ego. I don't need worship. I am the truth. And I only extend truth. I only create truth. And that is what you are. I want you to experience the truth that you are and the truth that I am. So, this is what we've undertaken. This is what we call advanced spirituality. This is what the world needs. This is the answer to all our perceived problems. A recognition of our true identity. A realization that we are the very expression of the one source that there is, that we are one with the Creator itself. That we hold all the characteristics of that which created us. We are the promised seed. We are the voice of truth in the earth. We are the light of the world. This is what we have undertaken, in that we are renewing or making new or returning to our original way of thinking and being, returning to reality. Even the scripture said that the entire earth, all the universe, all the galaxies, all the ocean, all the heavens, groan and travail for the manifestation of the sons of God. What are they talking about? The earth and the galaxies and the universe and everything is held in bondage as long as humanity is held in bondage. Why? Because humanity holds the life and the freedom of all the earth, all the universe. And so Romans said that the earth groans and travail for humanity to wake up to the truth of who we are so that they can be set free. So it is very important and crucial and vital and absolutely necessary that we come back home to our Father and that we realize that everything remained as it was originally created. None of our fantasies, none of our hallucinations, none of our dreamings of separation, none of our wild and vain imaginings. None of that has changed anything. All it has done is delayed your family reunion. I get excited sometimes in these commentaries. You already know that. That's how truth affects me sometimes. I get excited. This is how I get my praise on with truth. So we recognize that we are preparing for another phase of understanding. We've been moving up this ladder of awareness and of awakened consciousness since we started day one. And we're but preparing through this review period, we're but preparing for another phase of understanding. Our understanding continues, has continued to unfold from our very first day. And we're glad that you're still with us. We will take this step completely. So we're going to take this study session, this 10-day study session completely and seriously, that we may go on again with more certainty. We need to be even more certain that we are now based on what we've learned. But there's more certainty for us to gain, and we want the more. We want to be more sincere about what our desire to know the truth that sets us free. More sincere about our transformation. More sincere about our renewing of the mind. More sincere about the love that we have for our God, our Creator, and for one another, especially ourselves. More sincere about that. And with confidence. And with confidence, we want to be more sure. We just want to be more sure. And as we continue to look into these ideas, these thoughts of God that has raised our consciousness and raised our awareness, our surety increases with the increase of God. Our footsteps have not been unwavering. Well, of course, this process is, it's not like, is not without work to be done, not without challenge, not without a little setback. And doubts have made us walk uncertainly. It's not without a little doubt. I mean, some of the things that we have introduced here, like the course says in the introduction, some of these ideas are absolutely startling. Some of them are even unbelievable. But the course only asks that we apply them, because it is in the application of the truth that allows us to experience the reality of that truth. So we're not to judge the thoughts or the ideas, we'll just practice them. And in our practice, we will come to know that what they are true. We'll come to be certain and sure and absolutely confident about the truth that's contained within these workbook lessons. These are the tools that God has given us through this document. Just a document or two to help us to wake up, to help us transform, to help us to undo what is not the truth, what is not reality. And we walk uncertainly and slow on this road that the course has set forth for us. So we understand this is a work of faith. But we have come 175 days into this, and we know that we have struck gold. That we are that something is happening that has never happened before in our life. There's a sense of what? There is a sense of freedom, of joy, and happiness if you've given yourself over to these lessons. But now we hasten on, for we approach a greater certainty. A greater certainty. It's called glory. We approach a firmer purpose. It's called more glory. And we have approached a sure goal, or a sure finality, where God takes the final step and we realize that we are in the heart of God. We are one with God. We are sharing the same self that God is, where we have always been. So this journey that we're on is without a distance. Why? Because in reality, nothing has occurred. We are still, and we have always been, in this heavenly place called the heart of God, or one with God. It's just as though time and space has created these intervals, which are illusions, as though we are moving on this linear, one-directional line. But in reality, there is no line. There is no interval. There is no time and space. There is no separation. There's only the presence. There's only oneness. There's only God. And there is nothing else. And that has always been. It has never changed. As it was in the beginning, it is now, and will forever shall be. We are in the state of changelessness. We are in a state that is unalterable, It can't be tampered with. It can't be tinkered with. Nothing can be added or taken away from who we really are. And that's a fact. And that's a matter of fact. You know how we when we're sure about something and we say, well, it's a matter of fact. A matter of fact. Where it's a matter of fact that you are loved. Why? Because God is but love. Therefore, so are you. That's a matter of fact. That's a changeless fact. And the more we claim this for ourselves, the more we begin to experience the peace of God, the power of God, the love of God, the grace, as they say, of God for ourselves. It becomes a direct experience in your life. Okay, that's enough for introduction. Now we'll get to Workbook Lesson 175. And in Workbook Lesson 175, remember, before we get that, remember that this is the thought which should precede the thoughts that we review. What thought is he talking about? So it says, each one but clarifies such aspect of this thought or helps us to be more meaningful, more personal and more true, and more descriptive of the holy self that we share with God and now prepare to know again. So the self that we share with God, and always been that way, this is the self that we're coming to know again, which is our true self. We're but remembering who we are. Jesus said it, do this in remembrance of me. And when he was talking about me, he wasn't talking about him personally, his body identification. He was talking about in remembrance of the oneness that we share. In other words, he was saying, love your brother. This will cause you to remember the oneness that you share with your brother. He said, love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul. He said, this will cause you to but remember the love you share with God. And so this one central theme we will always start these review lessons with during this review period. And that theme or that thought is, God is but love. God is, meaning the word is meaning present tense. God is presently but love. Because remember, God is always in the present. God is not a God of the past or the future. God is only a God of the present. Because see, God is a timeless and formless God. So God is always present. He's never, or it is never absent. And so this whole idea about God or about reality or about love is that it's always present. Always. The presence of God is everywhere. It's never absent. No matter how caught up we get in the mundane vicissitudes of life, we get caught up in the relational mumbo jumbo. No matter how we get caught up into our selfish self and our wants and our needs and our desires, no matter how we get caught up into the comings and goings of this life, no matter how much we ignore the truth that is true always, God is always present. Love is always present. And it's but a recognition. And what happens to us is we get so caught up in this playground of a world trying to make it real so we can take a bite out of the apple. So we can get another piece of something, have something else, so we can possess something else. No matter how deep sleep we go into, God and the love of God is always present. Always. And it's the only reality that is present. I don't care how solid the rock is. I don't care how old the tree is. Or how old the body is. Or how young it is. The only thing that is real is always present. And that is what? The presence of God. Or the presence of love. Or the presence of reality. However you want to say it. Or the presence of Jesus. However your religion said. The presence of Buddha, the presence of Allah, the presence, whatever, it doesn't matter. What you recognize as the ultimate is always present. And so God is love. Present love. God is our present love. And because of that foundation, therefore, so are we, present love. See, love doesn't recognize past nor future. All that love recognizes is in this present moment. The only reality is that there is love. And it awaits your agreement. It awaits your confirmation. That's all there is in the moment, right now, wherever you are. You could be laying in the hospital. You could be sitting in a chair meditating. You could be on your job working. You could be at the post office sending someone a love gift. You could be sitting at a restaurant having lunch or breakfast or dinner. You could be having an argument with your son or daughter. Or your wife could be walking out the door. Or there could be a shooting down the street. It does not matter what the outward appearance is. The reality is God is, and so are you. The only reality that really exists. All the other appearances are just that. Temporary appearances that are passing away. They're like passing clouds. Your life, the life in the body is like a passing cloud. And it's so an instant. It seems long, but it's just an instant thought. It's an instant dream that only lasts an instant. When you wake up, you realize that it wasn't at all. It was just a dream. Just like when you wake up naturally, you realize, oh, that was just a dream. The boogeyman wasn't running after me. It was just a dream. I wasn't falling off the cliff. That was just a dream. So that is the foundational thought that we will now lay these next two lessons on as we review workbook lessons 159 and 160. We're going to lay these now other two previous lessons on top of the foundation that the only reality is love. And we are a part of that love. We share that love with all creation and with the Creator. That is the foundation of our life. It has to be. If the foundation of our life is anything else, then we're standing on what? Shaky ground. We're standing on shifting sand that shifts, but love doesn't shift. Love is permanent. Love is eternal. And you can what? You can take it to the bank of heaven and they will cash that check. This world may not cash the check. If you go and say, God is love and so am I, they may doubt you and may not cash that check. But when you go to the National Bank or the Universal Bank of Heaven and say, God is, and so am I, they will say, come on in. It all belongs to you. I'm having a little fun this morning, as you can see. So God is but love. And therefore, so is all that love creates. Because love creates like itself. So love created you like itself. So you are love. You are love and you are love's beauty. You are immaculate. The psalmist said that you were wonderfully. It says you are wonderful. You're wonderfully made. You're wonderful. So that's why when people ask me, how are you doing, Oliver? I say, I'm wonderful. What I'm saying is, God created me perfectly. Immaculate. Eternal. I am that. I am. And when I speak like that, all of heaven say yes. All of the energy of life says, yes, that's my son. That's my daughter in whom I'm well pleased. Hear ye him or her. So they have something to say. That is what? Something to say that will light your fire. So in Workbook Lesson 159, the thought that we studied when we went through it is our first review lesson. And it says, Workbook Lesson 159, you remember it says, I give the miracles I have received. I give the miracles that I have received. No one can give what he has not received. So when you're talking about giving and receiving here, remember, giving and receiving is one act of love. It's what God gave in creation. It's what we receive as God created one. So no one gives what he has not received. So that which God gave in creation, we have received, and therefore we can now what? Extend it. We can give it ourselves. That's the idea. So it says giving and receiving are one act of love. That's why we've said that many times. It's not two different events or two different transactions. What you give, you are receiving. What you're receiving, you're giving. That's the law. That's the law of God. It says to give a thing requires first that you have it in your own possession. You cannot give what you do not possess. So to give is an acknowledgement that you have something. Here the laws of heaven and the world agree. The world and the laws of heaven agree that to give something requires that you possess it. But also here is where heaven and the world separates. Why? Because the world believes that to possess a thing, it must be kept. Yeah, the mindset of the world or the ego is that what? To possess something, you got to keep it, because if you give it away, now you don't have it. That's the thinking of the world. Thus, you have a world and billions of people in the world that are afraid to give away what they possess because they realize that they believe that they won't have it. And thus you have what? Legions of people that are storing up and hoarding up their possessions to the point where they don't have any room for them. And they go and build bigger barns. They buy bigger storage buildings and buy bigger storage houses and fill them up with the possessions that they have. Not knowing that in doing so, what they're acknowledging is that what? They really don't have them. Why? Because in the law of God, you don't have it unless you give it away. That's the evidence that you possess it. But we got it ass backwards. I'm sorry, bass backwards. And so we see a society that is choking itself with possessions. When others could be what? When others could be helped. It's a puzzling thing to me. Very puzzling. You ride by people's house. Sometimes I ride by people's house. It's not a judgment. This is a joke. And you can't see the house. Why? Because the yard is full of stuff. Old stuff that don't even work, that they don't even use. It's piled up in the yard. Why? Why is that? It's telling us that here, because the world has taught them to possess something, you got to have it. You got to keep it. You can't throw nothing away. Puzzling to me. To me, it's fear. It's a form of fear that you're not going to have enough for the future. So that means you're relying on yourself, your own wits, your own smarts. Then the flood comes and washes it all away. Let me stop. I'm being comical today. But it's true. You know it's true. So where is the trust? Is it in the barns? Bigger barns? More stuff? But salvation teaches otherwise. To give is how we recognize that we have received. Notice now, it is our giving. It is a recognition that we possess and that we have received. That is the law of God. The law of God is giving. It is the proof that what we have is ours. The proof of what we have is ours is when we give it. Wow, that is so opposite. This is so antithetical to the word the world has conformed us. The world has conned us in believing that it's better to hoard it. It's better to keep it than it is to give it. The world has conned us in believing that. But we're learning different. That's why we're going through this process of what? Renewing our minds. So the thing that we desire is the thing that we should be giving away. What do you desire? Take just some of it, or all of it, and give it away if you desire more of it. If the farmer never what? Give the seed to the ground, he'll never get a harvest. And if he just receives the harvest and never gives a portion of the harvest to the ground, he would not get another harvest. That's just logic. And so I give the miracle I have received. What is the miracle? The miracle of love, the miracle of allness, the miracle of a shared oneness that we have with God and with each other. That's what we give away. That's the greatest gift. That is the gift of God. So we give the miracles that we have received. Why? Because God is love, and therefore so are we. And in the nature of love, love gives, love extends, love expands. And that's what God did in creation. He extended his very own self. God gave his complete self in his creation. That's why you have become what he is, what it is, what she is. That's why he said, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ. Why? Because there's only the one mind. It's what he gave in creation. He gave equality with him. God is not afraid. God is not threatened. God shared his entire being, all of it, only to receive all of it. That's why he stands waiting for all of his harvest to come home, all of humanity to come back to their place of creation, because there is no other place for them. There's no other place to go. That's why God doesn't sweat. God doesn't have anxiety. God doesn't worry. God don't need worship. God don't need, sacrifice. He don't need anything, because God had given away everything. And he knows that in the law of oneness, that because he's given it all, he has also received it all. So he but waits for our return. That's what this is all about. That's what this world is all about. Where we have made a place to hide out, to go prodigal. And God is saying, okay, that's temporary. He said, this place we made is temporary. It's falling apart. He said, eventually it's going to pass away and nothing going to be left. But what he made, but what he created. So you live in a glass house. You always have. God is always. So the private self that we thought we were, and all of our personal history, all of our secrets that we thought we had, there is no secret. There is no personal self. There is no personal history. It stands in an open dream. And when you wake up, guess what? That thing go, pew, it's gone. And all that is left in your awakened state is your original state of love. And that is what we really want. It's not in the dream. It's in the awakening from the dream. It's not in religion. It's not in religious structure. It's not in the government. It's not in the arts. It's not in the science. It's not in the sports. It's in the knowing. It's in the recognition of the truth. And then you take that recognition to all those avenues, those vineyards, and you share the love. So we give the miracles that we have received. So our life become a miracle. Miracle is basically what? Every act of love. A miracle is every act of love based on what? A shift in our perception. Well, now we've shifted our perception from fear to love. And in that shift, every act is motivated by what? The love that we share, the love that we are. So that was Workbook Lesson 159. And then we looked at Workbook Lesson 160. And remember, at the foundation of all these workbook lessons is this one thought, this one idea, that God is but love. Therefore, so are we. And so we lay this idea on that foundation, on the foundation of love, on the foundation of reality, on the foundation of truth. And Workbook Lesson 160, as you remember, it says, I am at home. Notice now, we've already learned that the reference to I am is a reference to our original created, innocent, eternal self. The self that was before there was any formation in any mother's womb. The self we're talking about is the self that was before the foundation of the world. That's the I am. That is who you are in reality. A formless and a timeless being. And so the lesson in 160 says, I am at home. Notice now, I am at home. So if you are at home, right? If we're at home, if the I am, if the original self is at home, then who is the self that's living in this world? Who is this self that's living in this world that we think that we are, if I am at home? Who is this self that's sitting in that chair, who's watching this video? Who's the self that's reading A Course in Miracles? Who's the self that lying down at night and waking up in the morning, that's had a job, that has children and grandchildren or great-grandchildren, whatever? Who's the self that has gifts and talents and abilities? Who's the self that has a bank account, that has a social security number? Who is this self that's living in this world? If I am is at home. My teacher just reminded me of something. I think that's a scripture, but I can't find it. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to find that. But who is the self that's living in this world? It's if I am at home. That's the idea. So lesson 160 says, I am at home. Fear is the stranger here. Fear. So the subject in lesson 160 dealt with fear. And we remember we said that we asked the question, is God the author of fear or confusion? And we said no. We talked about fear. And we said that fear is a stranger to the ways of love. Notice now, you know what a stranger is. I mean, what? Yeah, you don't know nothing. I don't know anything about this dude, man. So we're saying that fear don't know anything about love. It's a stranger to love. It says fear is a stranger to the ways of love, or it's a stranger to the way love operates. Fear is. So one that is operating in fear is not operating in love. Remember, it says fear has torment. The Bible says that fear has torment in 1 John 4:18. In 2 Timothy 1:17, for you biblical scholars, including me, I'm a biblical scholar. In 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, fear, it says, for God has not given us the spirit of fear. So fear is a spirit. Notice now. It's a spirit, or it's an idea. It is an idea of the mind. It's a made up idea in the mind of a separated one. It would have to be in the mind of in the place of where a mind believes that it is split off from its true self. Why? Because God has not given the spirit of fear. Therefore, it can't be in the mind of God. Therefore, it would have to be in a made up mind. So fear is a made up concept that man made up, and God didn't give us the spirit of fear. It went on to say that God gave us the spirit of power, the spirit of love, and the spirit of what? A sound mind. That's what God gave in creation. But in the what? In the belief in separation, the ego thought system was created and gave us the spirit of fear, which is torment. It's tormenting. When one operates in fear, he's tormented. There's no rest in fear. Fear torments us. Fear keeps us on the move and on the go. There's never any rest when you're operating in fear. There's never any certainty, no surety. No foundation. And so it says, fear is a stranger. A stranger is a guest, a visitor, an intruder. Notice now, an intruder. One that is unknown or with whom one is unacquainted. So what he's saying here is that fear is unacquainted with the ways of love. Fear sometimes appears as a bully, and it tries to intrude on the ways of love. Fear is always caught up in the past. It's always caught up in the past that doesn't exist, and it always caught up in the future. So anytime we keep running to the past, which has passed, doesn't even exist, we're operating in a place of illusion. And we've already established that God is, and therefore we are present. That's the only reality there is. So when we keep running to the past and rehearsing it, be it good or bad, we're but having a dance with illusions. That's why it doesn't make you feel good. It's like all right, let me keep going. It says, fear is a stranger to the ways of love. Identify with fear. Notice now, identify with fear, which is always in the past. Fear is never in the present. Fear is a past thought. It says, identify with it, and you will be a stranger to yourself. You won't even know who you are. You have to leave your present state of knowing yourself to have a dance with fear. Now it's making sense. Why? What? When we do that, there's no joy, there's no happiness, there's no peace. And thus you are unknown to you. What is your true self remains an alien to the part of you which thinks that it is real, but different from your true self. So you become an alien to your true I am self to take a dance in the past or to have anxiety about the future. It's the same thing. What's anxiety about the future? I'm not going to be cared for. I'm not going to be enough. It's not going to have. I'm not. Which creates the what? Which creates the whoredom. Which creates the what? It creates a mindset that we won't give. And so there's no circulation. And you know that where there's no circulation, there's no flow. And where there's no flow, there's stagnation. And where there's stagnation, there's a stench of depression. Nothing's moving. Nothing's happening. Nothing's being healed. Nothing is growing. It's called comfort zone. It's called what? Our trust is on what we have known. It says, who can be sane in such a circumstance? So the Course is saying, that way is not the way of love, and it's insanity. So the world has taught us to be insane. To give up sanity for insanity. That's what the world has taught us, and we bought into it. If you don't believe me, just ride down the street. Or look in your own house. Or your own car. Or your own garage. Who but a madman could believe he is what he is not? You're not fear. We're not fear. We're love. So we would have to be madmen to believe that what we are not is what we are. He said, who but a madman could believe he is what he is not and judge against himself? So I would dare say that the majority of humanity is madmen. In the dream. In reality, we know what they are. They are at home. And so in this lesson, we remain as God created us. We are at home. I am at home. You are at home. And fear is the stranger. And so this whole exercise, all these workbook lessons, all these thoughts of God that we've been given over the last 175 days are designed to help us to return to sanity, to wake up and find ourselves in the heart of God where we've never left. And so here we are. And here we remained. And so that concludes our 2 review lessons, workbook lesson 159 and 160. And I'll close by just going through what we have rehearsed, what we are giving more to, what we are giving more energy and effort to as we move up the ladder of remembrance. God is but love. And therefore, so am I. So am I. I give the miracle I have received. And the reason I give it is because I have received it. And the reason I've received it because it's been given unto me by my Father. And it's been given unto you by your Father. What has been given unto you? Everything. Everything has been given unto you. Because what? God is but love. And therefore, so are we. That's what love does. It gives and it receives. And it gives and it receives and it gives. And all that is one act of love. And then finally, Workbook Lesson 160. I am at home. I remain in my created state. And when I recognize that by waking up, when I recognize that by being enlightened, and they say enlightenment is but a recognition of the truth. When I recognize that by being born again, and again, I recognize that fear is the stranger here. That fear is what we experience in a state of sleep. Fear is tormenting. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but a power and love and a sound mind. And why is that? Because God is love. God has no fear to give. God is but love. And therefore, so are we. So we have none to give. When we stand in our true identity, in our true state, when we are awake to our true reality. But if you look out into the world, it's full of fear. Why? Humanity don't know who they are. And they need a light. And so we become what? The light of the world. They need a savior. So we become what? In 2022, we are the saviors of the world. When I say we, that is those that have waken up. And the good news is, in God's plan for salvation, all humanity will eventually wake up to their truth, to the truth of their oneness. It's a guarantee. Why? Because God is love, and so are we. And God awaits for that which He has created, or she has created, or it has created. Because that is the only reality there is. Remember, as we have spoken, that the presence of God is everywhere. It is the only thing that is real in this present moment. Not the money you might be holding in your hand, or the honey you might be holding in your hand, or the gun you might be holding in your hand, or the whatever you may be holding in your possession or in your thoughts that you think it's going to save you, that you think it's going to pleasure you. That's not the real thing. God is the only reality. You are the only reality in God, and it's right now present. So when we make the shift to shift our focus to the reality of who we are as love, then we take our love and we share it with what we may be holding in our hands. We become the solution to everything and everyone. Because God is love, and so are we. Thank you so much. Wow. You can tell I'm feeling it today. Yeah, I am, because it's a special day. I'm celebrating 32 years of marriage and partnership with my beloved friend and partner and wife. And it's got me going early. So you can imagine how my day's going to go, my weekend's going to go. But that's not my motivation. The motivation is the love that we share together. It's the love that we have come to recognize, that is the one love that we share with God and with each other. And now we're sharing it with the world in these commentaries. That's why we founded Truly Foundation, so that we can share these advanced teachings with the world. Why? The world needs it. You need it. I need it. We need the truth. That's our only solution. It's our only way out of the dream. It's through the truth. So it makes everything wonderful, purposeful, sure, and certain. Thank you so much. Been my pleasure. Have a great day. And on tomorrow, we'll be moving to the next workbook lesson, lesson 176.